Hi, everybody. Hondo Carpenter here, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer for Sports Illustrated. Super excited about today's guest. Now, for over a year, you've watched this man write every single day, covering the Las Vegas Raiders for me. He is a terrific staff writer, NFL writer for us, covering the Las Vegas Raiders at Sports Illustrated. He's also a very well renowned television personality. He does a terrific job. We very much appreciate him. I always tease him because he looks like he's 16, and he does. And it drives me nuts because he's not. You know, I have to be careful because I've been criticized for calling myself old, but I'm older than him. And look at, he's younger than me and looks very much younger than me, much younger than his age. But he's a great writer covering the Raiders. You guys love his work, and we're very proud of him and how good he's done. The one and only Carter Landis making his first appearance on the pod. Carter, how you doing, buddy?
I'm great, Hondo. How are you? Appreciate the TV personality. Very generous.
Well, you are. A you work in TV every single day, and
Mhm.
you're very successful at it. And so I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Uh, First time on the pod, but you've been covering the Raiders now for over a year. You know, you've been with me at stuff. I loved your stuff from the combine. I got to tell you, being at the combine with you, the stories you dug up, the nuggets you dug up. In fact, I think you interviewed Ike. Was you very interviewed Eichenberg or Jackson Powers Johnson at the combine? Was it one of those that you interviewed?
I did Jackson Powers Johnson. Yeah.
All right, you're shaking all over the place. Is something wrong?
No, I'm all right.
Okay. So yeah, and I remember you were. I think your exact words. Correct me if I'm wrong, but your exact words after you interviewed him at the combine was, that guy's a Raider. I mean, you liked him, you locked in on him. A lot of people knew he was good. You thought this guy's Mr. Raider after you interviewed him at the combine. I'm giving you credit here. Tell us about that. What was it that just stood out to you?
I loved it. He has such a great personality. He was so vibrant. He came to the stage, and I think he was one of the first interviews of that day, and he had a good crowd early in the morning. He walks up on the stage and he goes, "Wow, I feel like a quarterback right now." And I mean, watching him on tape, that's a guy who likes to move people in the run game. He's got that nasty, mean streak to him. So that just fits, that just encapsulates what it means to be a Raider, especially on the offensive line in those trenches.
You, and I want to publicly give you credit. I told you this privately, but your evaluations were so good on players, so spot on. Your work is tremendous. I'm really proud to have you working for me, but more importantly, with me. Carter, you've been a just terrific addition to our Raiders coverage. So I want to get into a couple of things that I think are important.
Mhm.
The Raiders have some secondary questions, and I don't necessarily think they're without answers. But when you have young players, they have to develop. I mean, Jack Jones, tremendous last year, small amount of games. He plays all of 24 like he played for the Raiders in 23. He's going to make Big Jack, even with another year on his deal. Jacorian Bennett, a rookie. They believe in him. They think he can be something. Got to make the next step. Faison, we know what he is. I'm not even going to put him in there. Nate Hobbs, great player. Got to stay healthy. I mean, there are a lot of potential answers, but if you're being fair, you got to say there's questions. Love your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Even someone like Jack Jones, who you expect to be that number one outside corner, it's like you said, he's only been there for half a season and he's only been in the league for a few years. So, I mean, if that's one of your top guys, and Nate Hobbs is another one of your top guys, but it's like you say again, got to stay healthy. He even this year, which I thought was his best career season, he still dealt with injuries, and he's primarily a slot guy. So you have to find that answer, that other answer on the outside. And Jacorian Bennett is certainly one. The physical profile is one you really like. Super explosive, super athletic. Also dealt with injuries last season. I think he struggled pretty early on in the season and saw his playing time dwindle a little bit. But it's I'm also curious to know what you have to say about what are the other answers that you were talking about? You say the questions that aren't without answers.
Again, I think we've talked about Jack Jones. He needs
Mhm.
to show and demonstrate he can do it on a consistent basis. Jacorian Bennett has to take the next step. And I mean, it doesn't mean he has to be great. You have to develop, but he's got to take another step. We know what Faison can do, so I have zero concerns about Faison. Nate Hobbs got to stay healthy. Just got to stay healthy. I think DeCamerion, that's an interesting guy right there.
Mhm.
Started 2 years in the SEC at the highest level, long, fast. Now, he's a lot like Jacorian Bennett now, and he can stop on a dime and give you 9 cents change. And that guy's got, arm length and speed. I really like him. So yeah, I think there are a lot of potential answers, but I think to present it as, oh, there's no concerns is absolutely foolish. I think there is potential of adding a free agent. I know that they have looked at that. Some guys were priced out of the market. Some guys were not available via trade. I still think that's a potential way to add something to that room. But as of right now, potential answers, but certainly legitimate questions. Now I want to get to another one with you. The QB competition is going to be fascinating to me for a lot of different reasons. Years ago, I had a coach tell me when I asked him about rotating players in and out, and he told me that when you get a guy in there and he has a short leash, it's because he hasn't earned a long leash. But if you've got a guy who's played very good his first couple, 2 or 3 games, and he has a bad fourth, he goes, I'd probably not pull him because he's growing, he's developing. He said, but if it's his first game and it's not going good, I'm pulling him at halftime. So that's going to be fascinating. How big of a leash, number one. Number two is preseason. You don't want to play your proven starters, but you don't have a proven starter yet. Even Aiden O'Connell only played a half a year. And if it's going to be a true competition, which they promised Gardner would be, okay, you're going to have to get them both reps with the ones. That's fascinating to me. This card, and I'm going to tell you another one. We're the only ones talking about Anthony Brown. I mean, remember, we were talking about him back at the NFL owners' meetings. People are sleeping on him. Do I think that he's going to win it? No, I don't think he will, but I think he has a shot at it. And to not talk about him is disrespect. Your thoughts on the QB competition?
I wrote some notes down, but Anthony Brown wasn't in my notes. That's a good one. But yeah, that's a guy who can extend plays with his legs. He's a great athlete. So I think that gives, I
And he's
think,
done it in the NFL.
yeah. And I think that in today's NFL, you need that. You need that element. But if we're looking at it from an O'Connell and Minshew perspective, I think that honestly, I think it's a pretty even playing field for a couple of reasons. I mean, Antonio Pierce has that familiarity with Aiden O'Connell. Remember, he chose him when he took over as the starter. He said, we're moving forward with Aiden O'Connell. He didn't just say, we're moving forward with Aiden O'Connell for, one game and he can prove it. He's like, this is my guy for the rest of the year. So that's a lot of faith in a fourth round rookie at that point. But now you got Gardner Minshew coming in. He's proven he can do it at this level. And you've got a new offensive coordinator in Luke Getsy. So I think that puts both O'Connell and Gardner Minshew at square one, learning a new offense. Minshew, Minshew and O'Connell, I think that they both have very similar skill sets. Minshew is a guy who throws with really good anticipation and precision. I think that's been his calling card in the league, just his ability to get the ball out on time and make good throws. And similar with Aiden O'Connell, it's what they liked about him in the draft. He's accurate. He's a quick decision maker. He gets the ball out quickly. And then I think the bigger picture with this quarterback competition is, do the Raiders feel that they are just, good quarterback play away from being a playoff team, getting back to that postseason? Because remember, they were right on the brink of it last year. Late season push got them right up against it. I think that game against the Colts kind of diminished any chances they had. But you look at this offense, Getsy's a guy who schemes up the run game really well. You have Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers, and now you have a guy like Michael Mayer who showed a lot at the end of last season. And now you have Brock Bowers. So those two tight end sets, the way you can use those guys, the insulation is there for if it's Minshew or O'Connell. So I think again, is that question, get good play out of your quarterback and we're in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. And I think their approach is going to be, we want to hammer the football. We want to play strong defense. Don't risk the ball. Don't have interceptions. Don't have fumbles. Let us put you in a position to win the football game. And I think that's a very manageable for the first year of Aiden, which first full year as a starter, or Gardner's first year in the Raiders. I think that's a great mentality in how they would approach it. Would you not concur with that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like the interesting quarterback theory, the truck trailer theory. Either your quarterback's a truck or they're a trailer. I think, I don't know if you're going to have Minshew or O'Connell go out there, put the ball in their hands, have them throw it 40 times and say, go win us the game. It's more so, play within the system, trust your guys, and this offense can perform at a high level.
Yeah, that is a great analogy, the truck trailer. But I would say this: I don't think that the way their mindset is. I don't think it's that this year they need either one to be the truck. They don't. If they're throwing 40 times, I don't think they're the happiest people in the world.
Yeah.
But they do want them to not throw interceptions, and when they have to throw, be accurate.
Mm-hmm. That's what
That's a
both
big
those
deal.
guys do.
Yep, that's exactly what they do. I could not agree with you one bit more on that. All right, I want to go to the rotation. So let's talk about this. You got Christian Wilkins, who's the best defensive tackle. You can argue Chris Jones with Kansas City, and I think that would be a very fair argument. I think they're 1A or 1B. I like Christian a little bit more, and I did even before he was a Raider, because I like his motor all the time. Sometimes with Jones, you can see the motor get turned down. So I prefer that with Christian. So I felt that before he was a Raider, number one. But then you got Tyree, who was really coming on last year, who's an athletic freak, who needs more reps, especially now that he's healthy. Adam Butler, Jink, Nesta, and Byron Young. I mean, you got 6 DTs now who are legitimate DTs. I'm sorry. I think there is a lot of reasons there. And that rotation to me is going to be interesting. Will you talk about the rotation, please? And I'm not ignoring you. I'm grabbing something I want to ask you about.
Go for it. This is probably the best, problem that the Raiders have is divvying up who's going to play on this defensive line. I know Max Crosby resents hearing that, he needs help on the defensive line. He doesn't like to hear that. He feels it's disrespectful to his teammates. But if you look back in 2022, the Raiders as a team had 27 sacks, and Max Crosby accounted for 12 and a half of them. So I think adding some interior defensive line pressure, some help with Christian Wilkins, who, as you said, is one of the best defensive tackles in the league, that allows for Crosby to get double teamed so much less. And there's going to be more one-on-ones for him. There's going to be more one-on-ones for Christian Wilkins. There's going to be more one-on-ones for even Malcolm Kuntz off the edge. So there's just so many ways that all along this defensive line, the Raiders are going to be able to beat teams. And I feel like if I'm an offensive coordinator, an offensive line coach, and I got to play the Raiders the next Sunday, I'm not looking forward to it, especially on that line. But it's like you say, last year there was a lot of production. There was a lot of snaps to go around for John Jenkins, for Adam Butler, and not to, they played really, really well. I was really impressed every time I watched that group play. But now you get Christian Wilkins, and that's sort of bumps them down in the rotation a little bit. But I think if you get those guys in a sort of more reserve role, that is an excellent problem to have. Having Butler and Jenkins I imagine one of them will still start alongside of Wilkins, but my goodness, you have one of those guys rotating in. That is an excellent situation to have on the interior for the Raiders for a team that has needed to stop the run, and they're going to get after stopping the run a little bit more, and there's going to be more interior pressure, which in turn is going to create more pressure off the edge. It's really it's pick your poison with this Raiders defensive line. Um, I'm interested to hear, I'm interested to see what Tyree Wilson does. We saw as he got healthier and as the season went on, he started to show those flashes of what they thought he could be coming out of Texas Tech. The foot gets healthier. They find an interesting role for him, as an interior rusher. And I really think that is something that, as an inside outside guy, that is really something that they're going to be able to maximize, especially with some of these guys, Jenkins, Butler, and Kuntz off of one edge. Depending on the situation, depending on the defensive package, you'll be able to play him in both those spots. And I think that versatility is something that's really going to work in his favor. And this offseason, he has that chance to get healthy, work with Max, really hone into some of those skills, because we know about what Tyree Wilson was coming out of college. We know he was this big, super athletic, physical guy. Didn't have the pass rush finesse, but now he can start to build that. Crosby can show him how that really works. So, and again, going a little bit further down the line, Byron Young, Nesta Jade Silvera, those were guys who were 2023 picks who didn't see the field too much in 2023, but they offer interesting physical profiles. Young for sure. Nesta Jade Silvera is one of those guys that Patrick Graham likes at defensive tackle, those big eat up blocks, run stuffing guys. So the Raiders defensive line is looking like a Raiders defensive line of old.
So you think Adam Butler will be the starter next to Christian Wilkins?
I think it could go either way with him or John Jenkins. I figure those guys will rotate in pretty heavily, I would say. I think you see a lot of both of them. But I guess if we're going week one, I think I could see him next to Christian Wilkins.
All right. I'm going to ask you about a guy that's not getting a lot of talk, but last year flashed, Janarius Robinson.
Yes.
This is a kid last year that did some things. Now it isn't potential. There's tape, and there's a big difference. Okay, let's talk Jacorian Bennett. There's a lot of potential there. No tape.
Yeah.
Janarius Robinson's a guy comes in. There's a lot of reasons to like this young man. Will you talk about him real quick, Carter?
Yeah, that was a guy who played really well when he came in last year. I believe they brought him in kind of midway through the season. Am I right with that one? Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, you look at the edge
That was a
guys.
Champ Kelly guy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you look at the edge guys. You look at Crosby, Kuntz, Wilson, and then you have who Crosby refers to as J Rob, another guy, just big, just one of those big physical, just guys who can really get after it. I mean, that's a great guy to have as your third or fourth edge rusher. And it's like you say, yeah, no, there was actual, you saw him on tape. He got a few sacks last season. He showed what he can be. And I think if you have that in a depth role, who knows, it could become more than a depth role if he continues to show that over the course of an entire season. I think a lot of what we saw from when Antonio Pierce took over, you saw that switch flip in a lot of guys. You saw it on defense. You saw it on offense. It will be really, really intriguing to see it over the span of an entire season.
Well, I'm just telling you, when you hear it, Crosby talk about J. Rob, that's Janarius Robinson. That's why I'm bringing him up, because if Crosby's talking about him,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to talk about him. All
Yep.
right. Last thing I want to get to, but I think this is important. This is your first time. This is Carter Landis. You read his material all the time on our great Raiders coverage that we present to you. Terrific writer, wonderful television personality, and we're just so grateful to have him part of our Raiders coverage. Carter, when you look at this team, they're being built in the image of their coach. I keep hearing people talk about how are they going to score enough points to beat the Chiefs? Well, first of all, they're not trying to beat the Chiefs to 50. Last year, look at what they did to the Chiefs. what they're trying to do is say, hey, and I go back to this. Many people consider Tom Brady's undefeated regular season at during that season, they considered them the best team in NFL history. Then they get to the Super Bowl undefeated. The way people were talking, there was no use even playing the game. And oh, by the way, I was there. And oh, by the way, on television, I predicted the Giants to win. I said defense wins championship. And they go into that game, and you saw Antonio Pierce's defense beat up Tom Brady and the Patriots for what many believe is one of the biggest upsets in Super Bowl history. That week, and I've shared this story publicly before, his teammates have told me this. Watching film, Antonio Pierce goes into the coaches and says, listen, I noticed something here. Because he's a prolific film watcher. He shares his thoughts on the Patriots. They make some adjustments midweek and beat them. This mentality that you have to go outscore the Chiefs is not true, because even the Patriots were beat with an Antonio Pierce defense that punched him in the face, said to our offense, don't get turnovers. We're going to hold them down, and then you go score enough to win. My point is, a lot of people have the mentality you have to go outscore the Chiefs. No, the purpose is not to outscore them. Well, it is the purpose, but I mean, you want to beat them. So if you can lower their scoring impact, I'm okay with that. The point is, it's not a race to 50, it's a race to the win column. Would you talk about that, please?
Yeah, it's like you say. I mean, this is a team defensively. You're not going to worry about this team defensively because they are fully bought into what Antonio Pierce is preaching, the culture that he's building here. This team is bought in, and you saw it when he took over, how impressive they were on the defensive side of the ball last year. And I mean, they are in the they are, you know, in the they are embodying what he is teaching them, what he was as a player. Like you mentioned with the New York Giants, you don't have to outscore the Chiefs. You do, but you have to out tough them.
You don't have to outscore them to 50. You just got to outscore them
By any means necessary. And yeah, I mean, this is a group last year that when he took over, this group just needed some inspiration, and he gave them that very quickly. And you saw it. You just saw that energy change. And I mean, nothing really. I feel like when the Raiders beat the Chiefs on Christmas Day, I feel like that sold Pierce as the guy for the future. You know, that was the game that showed, hey, we're gonna punch you in the mouth. We're gonna out tough you. We may not have the guys, the horses to compete with the Mahomes, the Travis Kelce's, and everything, but you're not going to be tougher than us. And I think that's not going to be a problem on Sundays. This team is going to come out and they're going to fly to the football. They're going to be tough. They're going to get in your face. They're going to chirp at you a little bit. And offensively, it's like you say, take care of the football, get those explosive plays. Don't turn the ball over. That gives you a chance. So as long as they're going to be tough on Sundays, they're going to have a chance against anybody, even the Chiefs.
I agree. Carter, tell everybody where they can find you on X, please.
I am at Carter Landis 3 on X, formerly known as Twitter. You can go there and see my tweets, and I'll post, my stories and stuff. You can read them there. So if anybody wants to, follow at your own risk.
Follow your own risk. He's a great follow. Again, that's Carter Landis, one of our great staff writers helping me cover the Raiders. He's done it for over a year. This is his first, but not his last appearance on the podcast. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one. Thank you, Carter.